Hi, I'm Chevy Kelly from OzCoWilliams Cinema Advertising. Welcome to the Movies and Shakers podcast. Today we're sitting here with Bob Pillay. He is from Cornerstone Law Offices. He's the co-founder. His life is almost like a movie itself. So I'm very privileged to have him here on the first podcast of the series. And Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Chevy. Thanks for inviting me and giving me the privilege of being the first speaker at your podcast.
Oh, mate. Well, you've got a really interesting story, so I'm really going to enjoy speaking about it. We are here in the Event Cinema at Loganholme, which is kind of the spiritual birthplace of OzCoWilliams Cinema Advertising. We used to do advertising here at the when it was the Hyperplex, but from Cornerstone Law Offices' perspective as well, this is where you frequent the cinema, but it's also where your first office was created. Is that right?
That's true, Chevy. So we live just down the road here at Tanamira, and our first office was at our home office, and then within 6 months we moved to Loganholme, just down the road, about 500 meters away from the cinemas. And this is our common place for movies, and I love movies too, by the way.
Well, you've got 5 offices now. So you've started off with one in Logan. You've got 5 scattered in all corners of Brisbane, which is absolutely amazing. You've got 24 staff. You're a real Brisbane success story. But your life kind of plays out like a movie. So I would just want to understand how you got to this point. You and your lovely business partner and wife, Pravinita, who's I think out in court today, an absolute go-getter, but how both of you as a team have created this wonderful business. You grew up in Fiji, is that right?
Yes, I was born in Fiji, and I finished my primary school and half of my high school there.
Yep.
My parents still live there. They enjoy that life. He sent me over here to finish my high school. And one of the things he said, son, if you want to get somewhere in life, you need to get out and explore the world.
Right.
And,
wow.
So that was it. He sent me over here to finish my high school and uni, and that was over 30 years ago.
So what was that transition like? Because I can imagine small population coming into the big city. Even though Brisbane in Australia wasn't considered a big city, it must have seemed pretty big for you coming from Fiji.
It was, and I come from a small island in Fiji, and for those of you who've been to Fiji or know, I've come from the North Island, so city for us was something that I've never seen. It was a little town. At a young age of about 15 or 16, coming to Brisbane, it was a bit daunting.
Yep.
But I think it was at the right age because I was able to adapt and learn at that age really, really quickly, to the extent that I forgot to speak my own language. I was ashamed of speaking my own language because I didn't know the correct pronunciation and also when to use it and when not. So it was really interesting that time in the early 90s or late 80s, early 90s, growing up as a kid with identity and everything else. So yeah, and by the way, I did have dreadlocks, and I used to love reggae, and that's where my name Bob comes from.
Oh mate, that's brilliant. Yeah. So that would have been 86. Now we're that was the sort of 86 or a bit later, because you're saying, but I was thinking of Top Gun 1. So you're basically out during sort of Top Gun 1, came to Australia, and then 30 years later, look at you now.
I know. Top Gun 1, I watched it in Fiji.
Yep.
And it was amazing. I still remember the posters that they used to put on front of the cinemas, and that was amazing. So yeah, and now we've got Top Gun 2.
Yeah.
I've watched it twice.
So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You went to university in Australia, and am I right in saying that's where you met Prav?
Okay, so Prav's dad was a magistrate in my town.
Yep.
So we've known each other when her dad was a magistrate.
Right.
She went to New Zealand to study and complete her high school, and I came over here. Long story short, I went and studied architecture.
Right.
So after graduating from Westside Christian College, it's called now, I went and studied architecture.
Okay.
Now, in the early 90s, we were obviously going through a recession. There wasn't much going on in building space. So I used to do a little bit of contract here, a little bit of drafting, and a little bit of, bits and pieces. And ended up going back to uni and studied industrial technology. That's where I met Prav. She was studying law. It's
Yep.
like, So it's one of those that we knew each other, but we met at uni.
Yep.
And then, long story short, we've been married for 25 years now.
Wow, congratulations. And you guys have traversed the world.
Yes, I'm a bit of a traveler. When I was, young, I suppose the experience of moving here got me into the moving stage.
Yep.
And the desire and the eagerness to learn, see new places and learn as much as you could. So we've traveled quite a lot of Queensland. So after we graduated, Prav was working for DPP, Department of Public Prosecution in Brisbane. And with my qualification, including architecture and industrial technology, and for those who knew architecture, that's when CAD started.
Right.
Okay, you
Yeah,
do a
it's
bit of property,
it's a platform. Yeah. It's,
so that's computer-aided drafting started.
right.
And
Didn't know what it stood for, but there you go.
Yeah, drafting and design. And I was fascinated because that was something that led me into industrial technology.
Yep.
So the phase of designing into manufacturing CAD/CAM was fluent to me.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so that actually led me into manufacturing and then training apprentices. So I worked in a mining town west of Mackay called Glendon.
Right. Okay.
For a couple of years, and then Prav ended up coming with me.
Yep.
And then from there on, we moved to Charleville.
Yeah.
Prav got a job as a lawyer, Frank John Coyne Solicitors in Charleville, and I think that's probably one of the best experience she's got from doing everything as a country lawyer.
Yeah.
In Charleville, town of about 4,000, I think, in the Shire, and we still got lifelong friends. So my advice for anyone would be, if you haven't seen the country, you need to get out.
Out there.
Yeah,
Did I tell you my grandfather was actually a locum solicitor out in Charleville?
No way.
Yeah.
No.
So my mum grew up out that direction as well. So yeah, it would have been back in the sort of early 50s that he would have been out there. But so you go from a small town in Charleville, and then is it from there you get a job in the States?
That's right. So I was doing a lot of technical training, including TAFE as well, and I had the desire to do more. I wanted to see how big machines operate and do something bigger. So I applied for a working visa to US, which we got. So I ended up getting a green card and got to US, and anyway, got a job for a defense, aerospace and defense company. And I still remember, Dave Cap, if you're watching this, you're my legend, because I wanted to do anything, okay? So I applied for a supervisor's role in the armor division because that was exciting for me. And he looked at my resume and he goes, Bob, from what you have done, I don't think this job is suitable. I said, just give me anything, okay? I'm not here to climb ladders, I'm here just to learn.
Yep.
And he goes, no, don't worry. Long story short, after about 3 interviews and 3 weeks later, I've been hired for a position. Didn't know what I was hired for.
Right.
And one thing Dave said, who was my boss, he said, Bob, learn as much as you can. So I didn't have a desk. I had a desk in his office.
Right.
And I started learning. So I started putting documentation together, because I'm a process guy, for every equipment and so on. And when the time was right, because we worked in aerospace defense industry, he goes, this is the plan. So we were planning for the last 6 months to get you to where you need to be, and then deploy me on a program, which led me into Switzerland and Germany and and a lot of other places. So I think a lot of times we limit ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you open yourself up to say, hey, I'm ready to do anything, it opens a lot of learning and even untaps the resources that you may not know you have.
Yeah.
And a simple thing like from one guy who became a good friend of mine to say, just learn as much as you can without any boundaries. And
Yep.
I suppose that let me go. So yeah. So
It's
that
interesting because I think for a lot of people, the initial fear or that anxiety of doing something entirely different, it can be quite overwhelming. But in terms of most of us, I think if we just give ourselves that little push to do something in the unknown, we're swimmers. You know, very rarely will you sink if you go and give it a crack.
Yeah.
But look at the opportunities it's provided you now, and so you ended up in the United States.
Yes, so I worked in the Aerospace and Armor division. So we made anything basically from ground level up to space.
Yep.
So we worked on multiple programs, including Armor division. And Armor division was managed by once again, my good mate, Todd Besvick. He was a navigator on a American Air
Right.
Force, and he came out of that, so we call him a teddy bear Todd. So
Yeah.
once again, so he was managing that component because of the contracts. I was managing the aerospace side of it. So we had a great synergy. It taught me a lot of things as far as people management, materials, how the whole business side operates. So working in a country with close to 350 million people, there is systems and processes that works.
Yep.
And mind you, not only American way of working, we also had clients, BA Systems, and also international, some of the other ones, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, so it led me to a lot of different places. I think just before we're chatting, a lot of businesses, the model that I use in Cornerstone is based on the defense business principles.
Yep.
And I call it 5 principles of business growth and sustainability
Yep.
into the civilian world. A lot of people who work in the defense industries, and I'm not talking about people who are on the forefront of it, because forefront people, obviously, hats off to you guys. You are on the forefront. But the business component, which a lot of people don't realize, there's a whole big industry where defense industries provides a capability to the defense.
Yep.
Defense doesn't make aircraft. Defense doesn't make equipment. They identify the capability where the defense contractors do.
Right.
Okay, so that's a huge opportunity for people to tap into. And in US or in countries where the defense budget is quite a lot, that can be quite a vast array of businesses.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Including paper manufacturers, wires, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So that's how the economy evolves. But talking about the principles, yeah, I'll look at those principles, and once again, we'll tap on a little bit later.
Yeah. So in terms of the American experience, I mean, what are the key differences that you see in the way that they run business compared to the way Australians run business?
As Australians, we are quite relaxed. Our culture is relaxed and friendly because we look at more a balance of family outings and everything else, which is fine, which is great. But I think what happens is there's a more time of a relaxed attitude, she'll be all right attitude, as opposed to let's get the work done and then let's make it, whatever we want, right?
Yep.
So in US, the work culture, and once again, there could be completely different work culture. Where I work in the space, in the defense industry space, is very driven. Okay, we've got a task to do. Let's get it done.
Yep.
Let's get it done on time, with highest quality and cost effective. Okay, and once you start doing that, you will find that everything else falls in place. Whether it's your family, okay, where it's your hobbies, everything else falls in place.
Yep.
Because we've got a bit of structure. I tried to do that over here. It was a bit of a struggle, but I think if you look at our company now, Cornerstone, it took me a while about 8 years to be able to put those systems and processes in place. So one thing, going back to your question, is if I've learned anything out of working in the US with the aerospace and defense industry, is the importance of processes and systems.
And so while we're speaking about processes and systems, and we'll get back to the history of Cornerstone, but while we're speaking about it, you guys have recently received some ISO 9001 accreditation, which sort of lays the groundwork and recognises your processes and systems that you have within the business. Tell me more about what that actually means to have that accreditation.
Yeah. Okay, so the example I often use is you never see an aircraft parked on the side of the cloud because it's got a flat tire.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you don't. It's because it's based on quality. It's based on systems that ensures that the aircraft, when it's doing its job, is doing its job 100% to the max, right? Yes, the cost is expensive, but it'll ensure it'll go from point A to point B without any issues.
Yep.
Same thing is in business. We have to make sure that the business, whether the client comes in or the client finishes off, the journey in between has to be consistent. Okay, so ISO 9001 is something that was my dream, because any company that I worked with has to have that, and an AS 9100, which is aerospace standard.
Yeah, okay.
They go hand in hand together. Because the key thing with these standards or international standards is no matter where you're in the world, you're following the same principles.
Yep.
And it takes away people. And I think that's where a lot of businesses go wrong, because it'll go, hey, Bob, you did it.
Yep,
Hey,
right.
Chevy, you did it. Okay, it's your mistake. But if you take away the people component out of it and start looking at the process or procedure or systems, then there's a value add to the company. There's a value add to the culture, because you're not putting emotions in front of what should be done. So in a short and simple form, for people who do not understand what ISO means to the business, they won't get it. But if you look at quality, quality is based on process systems. The way you go to Domino's and get the pizza every time, the same tasting, is because they have a system in place to make sure that there's so many pepperonis on a pepperoni, there's so many grams of cheese, everything is consistent. They can cost it, they can do that, right? Important thing in our business is, once again, trying to make that process smoother for clients, trying to make that process smoother for our staff, and also for our business sustainability.
Right.
We can measure it.
Yep. And so do you think if you didn't have that kind of background in places like America and working for these big organisations, you would have potentially had a different mindset, or has this always been within you?
I know we were chatting about before, I love Charleville, and if I wasn't going anywhere, I reckon I'd still be in Charleville.
Yep.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I've got no idea, but we don't know unless we try, right?
Yeah, of course.
I probably would have made an aerospace company in Charleville. I don't know.
Well, Qantas was started out in the bush, wasn't it?
There you go. But yes, it does. And my lifespan normally is about 5 to 6 years. Okay, so 5 to 6 years with architecture training, 5 to 6 years in US, 5 to 6 years in the program, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when I came back here. And I know Cornerstone has been about 8 years now.
Yeah.
And we're talking about getting key members in place, because people do have their fuel tanks that is filled up, then it needs to be refueled and recharged and rebuilt.
Yep.
So and people need to understand that whether you're in business or in a position or in a family situation, whatever it may be, you need to know your limits. Okay, you need to know your boundaries. So my life, like I said, energized for 5 years, and my dream was to get systems in place. COVID kind of set me back.
Yep.
So that's why I got ISO now, because we couldn't do it anything
Yep.
Earlier on. But what it does is it gives us as a company an opportunity to deal with companies who are ISO accredited. Okay, so if you do not know, if you've got a business there, if you do not know the value of ISO standards, a lot of people will only work with companies that are ISO accredited because they know to maintain their quality, they have to use a company that is following that quality principle.
Okay.
Okay, so
Understood. And so if we just step back a little bit, your journey back to Australia from the United States. Now we're here in the VMAX Cinema where you've recently watched Top Gun Maverick. I've watched Top Gun Maverick. The only place to see it really is on this giant screen at an Event Cinema. But you came back on the F35 as the program manager for the F35 in Australia. Is that correct? So tell me about what the F35, did we see that in Top Gun Maverick?
there was a little bit at the very beginning, and
Yes.
then it disappeared.
Right, okay.
On the flight deck there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, aircraft fascinate me ever since I was a kid, and you will see where the connection comes from, for aircraft or the need for speed. When I was in Lambasa, which is the town I grew up, I always used to look up in the sky and look at those little planes that used to come, the island hoppers.
Yep.
Right? And my brother and I always used to say that, I will be one day able to say that aircraft won't fly. Because, I wanted to be an engineer, aircraft engineer.
Yep.
Or pilot, right? And that dream always remained. And when I came over to Australia and started studying architecture, and I said, you know what? I'm going to look into joining defense.
Wow.
And see if I could get into piloting. And I couldn't get in.
Right.
Because back then I wasn't a citizen.
Ah.
Right. So that was the only glitch.
Yeah,
there.
of course.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and do a commercial pilot license.
Right.
And my hours that way. And one of the best advice, one of my great uncle gave me. He was at Gold Coast. He's a doctor.
Yep.
Aeronautical doctor in aerospace braking systems.
Right.
And he said, son, pilot is great, but would you like to see yourself as a bus driver in the sky
Right.
for the rest of your life?
Yeah, okay.
And that's when penny dropped.
Oh, right, wow.
Okay, it's like, that's a good thing, yeah, okay, because there's a difference between a defense pilot and a commercial pilot,
Yep.
right? So my need was for speed. So we parked that aside,
Right.
and it did a 360. I never had any intentions. I forgot about flying, forgot about aircraft, till I went back, till I went to US, and guess what? I ended up in this space of making aircraft
Wow.
parts and components, and we did make a lot of also general aviation components because we worked in advanced materials.
Yep.
And Cirrus is a four-seater luxury aircraft, and that kind of got me to, it's like, hang on, we make parts for this. Let me get back into it. So I got my pilot's license in California.
Yep.
And belonged to a flying club, West Valley Flying Club. So if you're watching, awesome club to be in. And they had lots of aircraft, and we did a lot of trips in California for weekends. The $100 hamburger flights.
Yeah. Sorry, so this is where you would jump in a plane and go and get a hamburger, and it would be $100 totally. Is that what it is?
That's It's just a saying you're going for a $100 hamburger.
Right.
Yeah, because you're jumping on a plane, going to San Luis Obispo, or whichever airport you want within a day or two, and then come back. Yeah. So I still got my pilot's license. I haven't flown for a while, but yeah. So.
The big question is, were you made to take the dreadlocks off by the time you got to work for the big company in the States?
I'm afraid it gave up on me.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So that was easy.
You had to get ahead of nature, did you?
I know. I started losing it when I was 21.
Right, okay.
I still remember, I took my helmet off. I was riding to uni and took my helmet off and learned, There's a lot of long hair in my helmet. And that's it, you know, and, yeah.
You got ahead of the game. Oh, fair enough. And so you wrapped up with the F35 program here in Australia. It must have been a great time of your life.
Yeah. So when I came to Australia, we started that program as a program manager. Sorry, I kind of diverted on the question before. So F35 was one of our projects back in US.
Yep.
So even though it wasn't the only project, we did a lot of projects. So when I came back over here, being involved as a program manager for the composite part, so that aircraft is made of composite. Okay, there's very little apart from the motors. It's all composite.
Okay.
So advanced material. So program manager for a composite part was quite challenging.
Yeah, I
because you're
bet.
working with two primes. So you know looking with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, BAE Systems. So American and BAE Systems,
Right.
which is UK based.
Yep.
So there's a lot of programming. When I say programming, contract programming, a lot of resource, a lot of material planning, a lot of capacity building. And this is where I really enjoyed getting everything together to get our deliveries on time. And I think Australia has now got, and I was there for the AU1 and
Right.
AU2, which is the first F-35 for the Australians.
Yep.
And I think now we've got about 50 aircraft
Wow.
already, so which is great. And,
Yeah.
and
And you were at the birth of that program.
birth of the program. It's sad to not be still involved with it, but I think it's the right time for me when I made the decision to
Yep.
say enough of living out of hotel rooms and
Yeah.
airports.
I can imagine.
And so yeah,
And they didn't give you a free F35 as a parting present? You don't get one of those?
even if they did, I don't think I've got a garage to park it.
And so tell me, what was when did you decide, when did yourself and Prav decide, right, we're going to give this a crack. We're going to give our own business a crack.
Yep.
When was that moment?
So it's an emotional one because I love my work. So if whatever work I had, I'd give in 110, 20%.
Yep.
And this goes back to the very beginning of moving into a mining town to country town, and a lot of times, Prav's been a great partner, a great a wife, but I've never asked her on what she wanted to do. It was always about me. And this one morning, and she always used to book my flight, so I used to commute. When we had this company in Perth, and we moved the company to Bankstown Airport. So many staff, and so I used to do the weekly commute, and automatically she used to book my flights, and I had my creature of habit, same seat,
Yeah.
same flight, okay, coming back either Thursday night or Friday night, and been doing it for 6 years. And I never asked on what Prav wanted to do. So this one morning, this air hostess comes up, and I still remember Virgin's brown tray
Right.
with a white paper coaster and an orange glass. And she goes, "Welcome back, Mr. Pillay. Hopefully you have a great flight, a great week, and I will see you next week." She knew my pattern
Yeah, right.
better than my wife.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I can't remember her face, but I can still remember her hand and the tray.
Mm-hmm.
To the level it gave me anxiety in that flight to say, "Bob, what are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And she knew where to put my jacket and when to bring my bag, because as soon as I have that orange, I'll close my eyes till it lands in Sydney, and that was it.
Wow.
So that was an eye-opener. People call it light bulb moment or whatever, but that was like, what is this?
Yep.
Landed at the airport, and I text message Prav to say, "What do you want to do in this rush?" And she goes, "Oh, nothing, nothing, love. Nothing this weekend. You can do whatever you want." And I said, "No, in life," with a question mark. And she goes, "Can I call?" I said, "No, sorry, because we're still texting."
Yep.
Because I just wanted to
Oh,
get
really?
out.
You
I
just had that
wanted-
moment when you hit the tarmac, you're going, I got to...
Yeah, I just wanted to get out. I just do, just get out. And this is after I've got I would say $1 billion worth of contract under my belt, working with the team and so on. So this is after achieving everything.
Yep.
And I think that's where my time kind of 5-6 year time.
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
It's like, long story short, had a conversation when I went back to the hotel with Prav, and she said, what do you want to do in life? And she goes, oh, interesting. I'd love to, if the time is right for us, to have a law firm one day.
Right. Wow.
So the following Monday, I went back to work, and being the critical staff member for the program, I gave 6 months notice
Yep.
to say, sorry guys, I will be exiting the program, and there's enough time for anyone to come in and transition, and because it becomes a big risk factor with a program like that. And long story short, 6 months later, when I finally left my work,
Yep.
Cornerstone was birthed.
What year was that? Sorry.
2014.
Yes. Okay.
So Cornerstone was birthed, and in addition to that, my consulting firm,
Right.
which is the 5 principles of aerospace and defense, growth and sustainability in the civilian world.
Yep.
And that took me places. And Cornerstone was just Prav.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. And so it was just Prav, and now since 2014, we're sitting in 2022. You've got 5 offices. You've got 24 staff. Is that right?
Yep.
And doing some great things. What have been those key moments that propelled you, but also the big challenges that to growth? From that nucleus of an idea of, okay, we're going to do this.
Yep.
What have been the...
One of the things I would say is portable skills. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. Okay, and I don't think you have to be a person of expertise to run a business. Coming from aerospace and defense, where it's, physical stuff, running a business, you got to turn on your switch and say, okay, what are the skills that I need to apply, and how can I apply in this situation?
Yep.
Would be one of the things. The biggest component of growing any business in Cornerstone is being yourself. A lot of times, if you try to be someone or compete with someone or try not be yourself, you're gonna get tangled up.
Yep.
Okay, so just be yourself, be your natural self, and you will attract people, clients, businesses that you can work with for sustainability.
Yep.
If you are going against the grain a little bit to get something, it will work. But the thing comes back is, how long is your fuel tank to be able to sustain that?
Yep. Okay.
So that would be my way of looking at it. We've never, because we said we don't have any kids, this is our business, this is our baby, this is our family, we've got to make it ours.
Yep.
Okay, so that was the key thing, is we will not do anything that's against our values,
Yep.
that's against our way of living. We like giving, charity, and this is what we do. And when we do that, organically, we grow the business.
Yep. Okay. And so, so that moment that, obviously Prav, she's one-man band within Cornerstone, you're doing your consulting, you decide that, okay, 2 of us have got to get around this and grow it with some staff. Who's the first employee? Is it a lawyer or is it a...
Yeah, interesting, because the first employee was Giselle. She was Prav's junior. She came as a student at the previous place she was working for. So Prav's been practicing now for 25 years, and so the way I found out that she had something of good value here. So I was doing my own consulting work, and I had this conversation from our bedroom turning into her office, and I was using the study as my office, to say, sorry, I don't have an appointment for the next couple of months. And that's when the penny dropped. It's like, hang on, how can you run a business and you can't have an appointment for the next couple of months? And so I said, would you like some help? And that's how it started.
Right.
So then I started kind of turning down my consulting business into helping Prav growing Cornerstone
Okay.
and putting systems in place. She's a great lawyer, and I respect her for that. But as far as the business side is concerned, I'm glad she's given me the reins to be able to run the business the
Yep.
way I see it fit for her type of law. And once again, people, when they get in business, they try and do everything.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And so this is, I guess, the hardest thing about transitioning from being within the relative comfort of a big organisation, knowing exactly what your role is and being able to stick in that lane, to creating your own business, having to wear every hat from marketing, business development, to HR, to people management, all those different types of things, having to sort of pick those skills up on the way. You're working at the start with limited resources, aren't you? So you kind of have to wear as many hats, but once you get to the stage where you can start delegating, I've noticed, and we've spoke about this last night, and I know you invited me to a wonderful networking event last night as well, but what strikes me is that your organisation has been built in a sort of almost, as you just said before, you know, a family type of environment. You've got mums and daughters working within the organisation. You've got people that have been there from the start and then brought their own friends and family into the organisation, which has been working well for you. Is that?
Yep. That's right. Yeah, and that's the culture. We call it Cornerstone family.
Yep.
Okay. The reason we call it family, in family, there's happy moments, sad moments, mad moments, bad moments, good moments, party moments. So it is a family.
Yep.
Even every morning, you know, we send a message out to say, and Prav will say that, good morning, CLO Sunshine, or, you know, hello Sunshines, or hello family.
Yep.
That's the way we address our team. And because as soon as they become part of the family, we will know when to have those good discussions, when to have those, you know, a little bit, you know, warmer ones, if
Yep.
need be. But the way we look at it is, yes, it's our business, but we've started it, but we want people to benefit out of it. It's no use Prav and Bob disappear into retirement and take away all the skills that we've learned, but if you can pass it on to someone, that'll be great. Like, you know, we were talking about, a lot of times people don't know about someone's history till they get to the end of life.
Yes.
And then you know everything about it. Oh, I didn't know.
Yep. Yep.
Okay?
Yep. Yep.
So if there's one way of sharing and sharing that love and passing on, you know, that'll be great. Yeah. And that's how we do it.
Yep. And so you've obviously, in that 6 years, we hit 2020, the world, as if it is a movie, a pandemic movie. Actually, life imitates art, and we're all thrust into this new world of lockdowns and a global pandemic. How did Cornerstone face that challenge head on? And you know, what were sort of the key moments that have sort of helped you survive at the back end?
Yep. It disrupted our business. It disrupted our family, as you know, it did most of the businesses. The way I looked at it is, once again, I go back to my way of running any business.
Yep.
On risk management, because that's you know, important. Every business will have risk, and how to manage it properly will give you opportunities. So to me, this pandemic was a huge risk management task for us. What can we do to make sure that we have enough juice left
Yep.
if something happened? And what can we do if this highway is closed? Which way can we go?
Yep.
So there was a lot of diversification. And what we did initially, we started Cornerstone with family law. Only family law, 100% family law.
Yep.
And to me, I never gave contract to any subcontractors that only had one contractor.
Right. Okay.
Because it is a risk
Yep.
for any organization. So I diversified a couple of years prior to that. So we had different areas. Family law, wills and estate, property and conveyancing, and started then doing crime and traffic and getting team members on board. That's how we grew.
Yep.
So as a result of risk management, if you do this properly, I was a risk manager for my program, and you know, you're talking about billions of dollars program. As a good risk management process, you should get opportunities as a result of mitigation.
Yep.
Okay. So, for example, we're going to spill this drink, so let's put a cap on it. Okay. What we've done now is actually gave an opportunity for someone to manufacture this. It's a cost, but then now the opportunity is we don't have to worry about pens to write it. We can have push buttons.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it comes out of, you know, if you do your risk mitigation completely and efficiently, you should be able to mitigate a good opportunities out of it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we did in our business. Now, one of the things from the very beginning I was a big supporter of is promoting networking advertising, which we haven't stopped.
Yep.
And that's where you come in. Well, that's where the movies come in. I know there wasn't much movies going on, but we didn't pull back on any of our advertising, any of our marketing. We continued on, and a lot of businesses like yours came in and said, hey guys, I know during this pandemic there isn't much traffic. We will continue to run your ads at a discounted price. Okay, I spoke to landlords, I spoke to my suppliers, I spoke to team members, you know, what can we do to mitigate this risk to make sure that we all come out at the end?
Yep.
And we did. We not only did, but we've actually gone past it. So pre-COVID, we had 19 staff, 18, 19. Now we're 24, 25. So.
Yeah. Wow. And that's and so diversification, looking after your staff, managing the risks ahead of the game as if you expect the worst to happen, but doing that now, not waiting till something bad happens before you start thinking, you know, it's too late almost then. So for most businesses, you would advise sort of, obviously from the processes and systems, absolutely getting them nailed, but, you know, almost thinking right now, what happens if another wave happens? Or what does my business look like if this happened again? What can I be doing now to help mitigate the unknown or the unexpected? Because no one expected something, an event like this to happen.
And I think something else will happen. So the best way I can put it is, there's a couple of scenarios. Like, if you're driving and look at the pothole, chances are you are going to go in the pothole. Okay, but if you're driving and look further up on where you're going, and you do subconsciously know there's a pothole, but where you're going, you will actually miss it because you will subconsciously move away because your aim is to go further and not in the pothole.
Yep.
Okay, so that always works. When I was flying, same thing. My instructor, Ryan, is from Colorado, and I remember he put the pin at the end of the runway and said, this is your aircraft here. No matter what happens, your sight should not move to where you want to go.
Yep.
Okay, as soon as you got the end of the runway, then you got to focus on the chevrons, is where you want to land. Okay, because if you focus on where you want to land, you're going to crash your aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, if you focus at the end of the runway and you know where you need to land, chances are you will land and get to the end of the runway.
That makes sense.
And no matter what happens, you swing left to right, you keep your focus. Sometimes you have to go around if it's windy. Okay, don't have finance, wait another year.
Yep.
Okay, a team member left you, well, swing along to the other side. So business is like that. You should be able to look further. A lot of people would say, how long, Bob? Well, how long is a piece of string? Start with not just looking in front exactly what you're doing. Start and keep stretching that. If you can see 1 week ahead, let's stretch it to 1 month. If you can see 1 month ahead in your business, let's stretch it to 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years.
Yep.
Okay. Forecasting. Okay. Predictive forecasting. And once again, I'm not saying go and sit down with an accountant and look at the numbers. You must do that. But do your business forecasting from business top level.
Yep.
Okay, where I want my business to be, where I want my team to be, what do I need to do, what are the goals? Like, all these things people know, but oh yeah, I've heard all that before. But how many times people really release the clutch and engage the gear?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you need to do that. Okay, and businesses that survive have done it.
Yep.
Businesses that probably haven't survived weren't doing it.
So, is there a way of you being able to quickly reference the 5 principles that you were talking about in earlier in terms of your consulting business
In any business,
and what you're implementing now as well? Sorry.
in any business, the very first thing I look at is people's personality types.
Yep.
Okay, when I say personality types, each one of are different. You know, each one acts different. The way of learning is different. What our goals in life are different. So we need to understand ourselves on what we want and not be forced by external pressures of what your business should be like.
Yep.
Okay, so that's critical, and there's a whole process on how to identify your strengths and your development areas. Knowing it. Okay? No one is perfect. I have my development areas. Okay, I might be too rude, too crude, too fast, too hard.
Yep.
Okay, but I need to recognize that if I am talking with someone or engaging with something.
Yep. Okay.
So acknowledging and knowing is very important. The second thing is processes and systems. Okay, you have anything that you do more than twice should be documented, but it's only 2 steps. Document it. Okay, because you never know when the bus is going to come around and collect you.
Yep.
If you document it, your recipe, the way of working, somebody will be able to pick it up and go. Once again, you're taking the personal out of it.
Yep.
Okay. Second thing is your forecasting. Okay. So forecasting is very important. Forecasting comes under planning,
Yep.
resource, capacity. Okay. Capacity is one of the biggest thing a lot of people don't really understand. You know, like in your business, you know, we'll talk about you know, how you look at capacity, for example, getting clients on board or resources. Capacity planning is the crucial thing. For example, when I was looking at the manpower for the program, we got to look at capacities. It's no use having 2,000 team members, but the equipments and the machines don't have capacity to produce, right? So if you're looking at 10 hours, and this is how you got to look at capacity, you can't run an engine on red line all the time. Yes, you can run it on red line, but what's going to happen is going to blow the head.
Yep.
Blow the gasket somewhere, right? You have to rebuild. So human capacity, you got to look at roughly, say, 10 hours we work, 8.5 hours, 85% efficiency.
Yep.
Okay? So no one is 100% efficient. We are only about 85% efficient. Can we do 110%? Yes, we can. Not all the time.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of people get burned out. Okay, oh, I've got burnt out. I've been doing this for too long. Because you're doing, you know, way past your capacity.
Yep.
Okay, and that's what happens. So capacity planning, once again, equipment, you know, if you're looking at professional services, so you're looking at human resources, but if you've got manufacturing plants or if you've got equipment that's used as part of your business, do your preventative maintenance.
Yep.
Because a preventative maintenance is a planned maintenance as opposed to shutdown, which will have a knock-on effect. I'll give you an example, going back to process and systems. Someone brings me a wrong pizza. I ordered a pizza, brings the wrong pizza.
You love your pizza.
I love
this
my
is
pizza. Brings me a wrong pizza.
Yeah.
I would have eaten it, but the person I was with didn't eat a particular type.
Yep.
I said, I'm really sorry, but can I get the pizza that I ordered? Now, so that person went away, the staff went away, and okay, so I'm having the conversation now to say the impact of what could have went wrong.
Yep.
The process where it fell behind, okay? The process of asking what pizza I wanted, she didn't write it down,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yep.
She thought, and a lot of times what happens is perception leads you into trouble.
Yeah, right, okay.
She thought what we wanted, right? But the real impact, what do you think the cost of that pizza? So the original cost of that pizza was $25, right? So the real cost of that pizza is actually negative for them now.
Yep.
Because this person now has to go and make another pizza that they could have made for someone else, the person involved of making the pizza, the materials and everything else, it's cost them not only the pizza price, but a deficit on what they could have done.
Yep.
And we could have been out of there earlier than waiting for another pizza.
Yeah.
Right? So
It's a
this is what you got to look at, the importance of process, the capacity. Maybe she didn't get a break.
Yep.
She was tired. Okay, got no idea. So that's the third principle.
So just in regards to that, is it almost thinking about your business, even if you never had any plans to franchise it, if I was to franchise this business, how would I do it so that someone could pick up our brand and run with it?
Yep, that's the way you got to look at it. That's exactly the way you got to look at it. If something happens to me, can the business run?
Yep.
Okay, and it's not about but Bob is not there, Prav is not there. It's not a person but a role.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, in our business, it's a little bit difficult because Prav is the brain behind the way we do law.
Yep.
When I said the way we do law is the way we deal with the client, we can't process that one. But what we do have in place is a mentorship and a trainingship.
Yeah, right.
Where we say, we want you to be mini-me of Prav.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? And then we've got great team members who are picking up bits and pieces. So it can reflect Prav's work ethics. And
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And so the final principles then?
Yes. So the other one is continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is very important. As soon as, business grows, world grows, everything else grows, right? And if you are growing your business over here,
Yep.
and you say, you know what, everything's humming away. Bob, I've got ISO 9001, process in place, systems in place, we've got enough clients, okay, and I don't think I need to do anything else. Great. So
Yep.
what happens is, even though I'm growing my business and I'm plateaued, you actually are going backwards relative to others because
Yep.
the others are still improving. Okay, so this gap is quite a lot.
Yep.
Right? And I was trying to explain that in that way. A business will end up dying over 3 to 5 years if they do not show any sign of improvement. Yes, their business, they're still going,
Yep.
which basically means that they could have done a lot better than where they are. Okay, so you just got to look at this. Just because your business has gone up, you're stable and comfortable, thinking you're good. No,
Yeah.
that is the
Like being asleep at the wheel. Kind
exactly. Yep, you're comfortable, which means you are not looking at improving your business. So it's constant CIP, constant improvement process. You need to engage that.
of. Okay.
Okay. And people don't like change. People, as soon as you say, we got to do something, why? Okay. As soon as you get settled in, you get lazy.
Yep.
There is no growth. Reporting a pot plant, you see what happens. Okay. So change something.
Yep.
Change the fertilizer, change the repot it. Okay. You see the growth.
Yep.
The fruit out of it. So that's the principles of, and the last one is the risk management. Okay, so continuous improvement and risk management is absolutely important.
Geez, I think that's really helpful for businesses. So, to me, it's really quite clear how your history has shaped, and my God, you've crammed a lot in. Has shaped where the business is at today, where you run it, how you and Prav run your business, and such a great team. So it's been awesome to have you on the podcast to share your story. Can you tell me? Can you remember the first movie, the first time you sort of tasted popcorn, had a drink, sat back and watched a movie? Where was it? What did you watch?
Okay. It was the first time I watched a movie. It was a black and white movie, and my uncle brought this projector, and I still remember that it was Alice in Wonderland, and it didn't have any sound.
Yep.
And it was in his lounge room on the wall.
Right. Wow.
And I was fascinated.
Yeah. Okay.
How can something? I think the wheels were only small.
Yep.
Whatever the millimeter was. Sorry. And I was fascinated. How can something like this turning over here, you could see it on the wall.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the movie fascinated me from there on.
Wow.
and it went on to Charlie Chaplin,
Yep.
the Three Stooges. He was a big fan of those, so I used to bring those out. But yeah,
Tell me, Bob, was there a cinema anywhere near where you grew up when you were younger in Fiji?
yes, there was. Yeah, and there was a cinema. Recently, I went back to Fiji, and I was talking about our ads on TV.
Yep.
On the cinema to Dad. And then the whole discussion started about him going to the movies.
Yeah, right.
Back then, the movies were coming out, I said, once in 3 months, or
Yep.
it was a long time. So they'd watch the same movie over a dozen times, okay, just for the experience, because they'd get ready and so on. And so that's how the discussion started. So my experience of going to a cinema was the Elite. It's called Elite Theatre.
Right, okay.
In Lambasa.
Yep.
And watching Eddie Murphy's Beverly Hills.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Oh, that
yeah,
was an awesome
yeah.
trilogy, wasn't it?
Beverly Hills.
Yeah, classic.
Coming, it was a Saturday.
Yep.
Because you couldn't watch it during the week. Saturday. So that was my experience.
Was that early 80s? Early
Yeah.
80s, yep,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And tell me, what's your favourite movie? Do you have
My
one?
favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption.
I'm going to put, like in a guitar shop where they say, do not play Stairway to Heaven. I was going to have a buzzer for this podcast if anyone says Shawshank Redemption, because everyone says Shawshank Redemption. It is quite an amazing movie, though,
I
isn't
don't know how many times I've watched it, and I've actually used that sections of that in my consulting and training
it? Right, okay.
training bits as well. But I don't know what's about that movie, but it always, I can watch it anytime. Yeah, as much as I'd like to say, Top Gun and Maverick are Need for Speed.
Yep.
With motorbikes and aircraft.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I think that would be the classic. But yeah.
So, tell me a little bit why you like the cinema experience. Why you like sitting down in a cinema and watching a movie as opposed to home, or what's your preference?
I think it takes you away from your day to day, and I've always had home theater system at home
Yep.
kind of thing from wherever we went, and I love my sound system. I love the experience. I love getting inside the screen and taking away from reality.
Yep.
Okay, for that hour, 2 hours, you are not focusing on the chores and things. You're actually focusing on where you need to be, and there's an excitement and
Yep.
laughter behind it. Even at home, we've got a dedicated cinema room. And it was funny when we were talking about the sound system, because I thought I had 7.2 with 2 speakers and it was pretty good, but I didn't know the ones on the ceiling now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it takes me away. Whenever I'm home, I'm never lonely. There's music on the screen or movies going.
Yep. It's funny though, isn't it? Like smell is some. We've got a bucket of popcorn that we haven't touched, but having not been to the movies for a period of time during the pandemic, the first thing when you open the door to the cinema and you get that waft of popcorn, it just sort of floods, your childhood memories, and everything flies through, because it's just those little things that associate you being with the cinema and all those little things that you love.
Ice cream.
Yeah,
Ice cream.
yeah.
Used to be the biggest thing, for me, going to the movies with ice cream and popcorn. But yeah.
Yeah, I managed to nail them all before the movie even starts there. I'm sitting in a pile of crumbs and chocolate flakes all over me.
Now Prav will ask me, do you want me to just get your I don't do popcorns anymore. And he goes, do you want me to get your Maltesers?
Oh, right.
Yeah, so if I'm going to the movies, it's got to be Maltesers.
It's got to be Maltese.
Yeah, and it's got to be, Maltesers, and I'm in heaven.
So you're one of the ones, shh, you're like,
Yeah.
out the back. Bob, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on the Movies and Shakers podcast. It's been a real privilege. Your story is amazing, but also the knowledge of which I heard you share last night as well at the networking event there as well. What was the Network Brisbane?
Yes, it's Networking Brisbane, and we've, once again, to grow your business, you to connect with people, and that particular group is like a family to us.
Yep.
And where we can, talk about anything and everything. Yeah, it's a great great place for people to go and learn from each other, because as soon as you start learning, your business will start dying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a great point to leave on. So thank you very much, Bob, for coming on the podcast, and thanks for all that you do to help other businesses around Brisbane as well.
No, thank you, Chevy, and thanks for giving us the opportunity, giving me the opportunity to come and be your guest, and also for us to be on the big screen and have our name and brand there. So thank you.
More than welcome. Good on you. Thanks very much for tuning in. There you go, mate. Your name in lights.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?